There's this one book that's been around for over 2,000 years, and it's been the go-to guide for strategy for generals, CEOs, and politicians alike. Today, we're going to dive into Sun Tzu's The Art of War and pull out its timeless secrets on how to actually win. But first, a question for you. When you're facing a challenge, a competitor, an opponent, whatever it is, what do you think is the single most valuable skill to have? Is it being the strongest, the fastest, having the best defense? Just think about it for a second. Because the answer, well, it's probably not what you're thinking. And there it is. This is probably Sun Tzu's most powerful piece of advice. The absolute best victory is the one you get without ever having to actually fight a costly battle. And that single idea, it changes everything we think we know about winning. So that brings us right to the core philosophy of this entire book, this idea of victory without fighting. And look, this isn't just about trying to avoid a fight. It's about completely rethinking what it means to win in the first place. See, the whole point of strategy isn't about destruction. It's about smart preservation. The most brilliant general doesn't aim for a bloody, messy battle. No, they figure out how to get what they want while keeping their own army, their resources, and maybe even the opponent's stuff as whole as possible. Real victory is measured by how efficient and clever you are, not by how much force you use. Okay, so you're probably thinking, how is that even possible? How do you win before a fight even starts? Well, the answer is all about preparation. Sun Tzu teaches that wars aren't won on the battlefield. They're won in the planning tent, long before anyone makes a single move. To pull this off, you have to weigh 5 key factors. First, what he calls moral law. Are your people united behind you? Do they believe in the cause? Second, climate. Do you understand the timing, the seasons, the conditions? Third, terrain. Do you know the ground you're fighting on, literally and figuratively? Fourth, leadership. Is the commander, actually good at their job? And finally, discipline. Is your team or organization running like a well-oiled machine? If you can't say yes to all of these, you're just not ready. And really, all of that preparation boils down to this one simple, incredibly powerful rule. Know your enemy. And, just as important, know yourself. If you get your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and you are brutally honest about your own, you'll never be in real danger. But if you're ignorant about either one, you're basically setting yourself up for disaster. All right, so once you've done your homework, you need the right tools to actually put your strategy into motion. These are the active things you do to get the upper hand. The first, and you could argue the most important tool in your strategic toolbox, is the art of misdirection. In a single word, deception. It's all about controlling what your opponent thinks is happening. Make them believe you're far away when you're actually right next door. Let them see chaos when you're perfectly organized. By feeding them bad info, kind of like a company running a flashy marketing campaign to distract from their real product launch, you make them guess wrong. And when they do, they open up weaknesses for you to take advantage of. Okay, your next big advantage is about taking decisive action. A brilliant strategy is totally useless if you don't execute it with speed. Look, nobody wins in a long, drawn-out conflict. It just burns through your money and energy, your team gets demoralized, and all sorts of new problems pop up. The smart strategist moves fast. They seize opportunities the second they appear and end the conflict on their own terms before it turns into a painful grind. And finally, your plan can't be rigid. It can't be set in stone. It has to have flexibility. Sun Tzu has this great metaphor for it. He says the best strategy is like water. Think about it. Water has no fixed shape, right? It just flows around obstacles, always finding the path of least resistance. Your strategy has to do the exact same thing, constantly adapting to whatever your opponent throws at you. Of course, all these tools, deception, speed, flexibility, they don't matter if you don't have the right person using them. And that brings us to the most vital part of the equation, leadership. Sun Tzu really understood that a great leader has to walk this incredibly fine line. On one hand, you have to treat your people with real humanity and care. That's how you earn their loyalty. But at the same time, you have to enforce strict discipline so that in those make-or-break moments, they follow orders instantly. If you only have one without the other, you either end up with a happy but useless mob or a ruthlessly efficient machine that's brittle and about to break. You need both. So what's the one thing, the ultimate edge a leader can get? Information. Knowing what your opponent is planning to do before they do it is everything. And this isn't about psychic powers or just guessing. It has to be gathered. Sun Tzu called this using spies. Today, we call it competitive intelligence, market research, or, just doing your homework. Okay, so let's pull all of this together. Why should we, here in the modern world, still care so much about a 2,500-year-old military manual? Because these rules apply to pretty much any competitive situation you can think of. A tough business negotiation? That's a battlefield. A political campaign? Definitely a battlefield. Trying to plan out your career? You need to know yourself and the terrain. Even tackling a big personal challenge requires a smart strategy, not just brute force. The language might be ancient, but the wisdom is totally universal. And here's the biggest takeaway. The ultimate point of all this strategic wisdom isn't just to be aggressive. It's a warning against letting your ego or your anger drag you into a fight you don't need to be in. The real goal is always preservation, to come out of any challenge smarter, stronger, and with all your pieces still on the board. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Pick a challenge you're facing right now, big or small, and instead of asking, how can I win this fight, ask yourself a much more powerful question. How can I use planning and deception and flexibility to get what I want without ever having to fight at all?